I'm Ali Zendrian, founder of A to Z Communications, and this is my Brand Stories podcast. This is where we discuss all things related to branding. On this episode, we have Rich Walker, the CEO of Qwik. This is a firm he created, realizing his technical expertise and wanting to share that with the world. He also was quite generous in our episode, sharing a lot of information, whether it be related to branding or his views on the industry. And I hope that you will all find it super helpful. And then, Rich, thank you so much for being on my Brand Stories podcast. And I feel like A, having such a successful podcast as yours, and B, with your Qwik, I wanted to understand a little bit more of your branding. So thank you for letting me peek behind the hood, so to speak.
Oh, my pleasure, Ali. It's so good to see you and be part of the show.
Thank you. I think it's peek under the hood, actually. But anyway, as you can tell, you know more about cars than I do. But anyway, so what's your favorite brand and why?
There's a lot of brands that come to mind, but the one that has always stuck out, at least in modern times, is Amazon. And I don't know if everybody's going to say Amazon because it's such a big name, but I love so much about what they do with branding. Look, I know there's always going to be some bad customer experience, but how many amazing customer experiences do you have with Amazon? How fast you get your product, how easy it is to return things. Like, they take out so much stress in the process. And I really feel like they're living up to that promise of the smile in their logo, of creating some version of happiness in every interaction you have with them. I don't mean to even sell for them. I just like what they're doing with their brand. There's a second aspect to this. My company, Qwik, we are a SaaS company, so we host services, and we've been hosting with Amazon Web Services since 2009. And I don't know if a lot of consumers realize that is a significant portion of their revenue, maybe more than 50% of their revenue. And equally, their brand as a service provider, way behind the scenes, is equally great. I've had amazing account representatives. The one I have right now is unbelievably good. And I keep telling him, like, please don't leave. Don't ever switch. I don't want a different one. I want you. He's helped us in so many ways. And again, it goes back to how are they delivering for their customers? And they've done something that most companies don't do. They will actually lower their prices. They'll give us back. They'll either give us higher performance or the same performance for less money. I mean, could you think of a better example of service in that manner? So that's why I choose Amazon. I think they excel at what they do. There's no doubt in my mind for why they're so big and successful, because they deliver on amazing promises.
I love that answer. And you're right. So actually, we have not yet had anyone say Amazon, but I'm sure from here on out, they're going to steal your answer.
You know, I had a friend who's a branding expert. And I went to meet with him for actually just like the first time. And he's like, Rich, I hope you understand, I can only work with the top 1% of companies in the world. They're the only ones who can afford what I do. I'm like, well, then tell me more. I got to understand this. And one of the things I loved about what he said about what is a brand is a promise that you're making. And so that's why I think like the brand slogans you hear, like, what is it? Open happiness or just do it. Those are promises that you're making. I don't actually know if Amazon has a slogan, but I think of that little smile in their logo as a promise, and they live up to that promise. And that's what we have to do with our own brands.
Yeah. Well, so if you don't mind describing for anyone who's not familiar with you, although if you're not, you're doing yourself a disservice because you should really get to know Rich's podcast. But if you don't mind explaining what you do and telling us a little bit more about Qwik.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO and co-founder for Qwik. We are a 23-year-old company at this point. And this, what we do is we make it easier to process forms, that repetitive paperwork that you see in your daily life. Now, here's what happened. I was a technologist in the 90s. I became a financial advisor in 2000. And when I won my first client, my reward was I got to handwrite their forms. And I thought, wow, this is dumb. I never want to do that again. And Ali, I filled out 2 sets of forms ever, because I built software that would do it, and I moved on. But everybody wanted it. And it turns out, guess what? Nobody likes to fill out forms.
Yep.
So our business then is we manage forms across the wealth management industry, which is over 42,000 forms in our library. We make it easy to access them, pre-fill them with data you already have, get them off to signature for either printing or DocuSign or Signex. And we manage everything so it works the same way. Like, your name never changes, right?
Right.
So why do you enter it over and over and over again? With our system, you don't. I don't care what form you choose from our system. It'll always work the same way. And I'll share just a fun fact. We generate over 1 million forms every month, which translates into saving a tree of paper every hour of every day of the year And we plant that many trees with the Arbor Day Foundation just to live up to that promise.
Love everything about that. I also want to get back to, so you said that it's a 23-year-old company. So what are
you're too kind.
Like in utero?
I started this when I was 27.
Very nice.
And man, I had a baby face back then. I had to grow a beard to win my financial planning clients to look older than 18. It was hilarious.
Yeah. But so isn't that interesting? I feel like that's a portion of branding too, is whether people perceive you to be a certain age, are you a certain demographic or things like that. So it's interesting that that was the case for you as a financial advisor.
Yeah, I think the industry complains about not having enough youth in our industry and not enough new people coming in. But do you know how hard it is in your 20s to earn the respect of somebody's money, to invest it? Like, what experience do you have at that point?
Right.
It's a really challenging thing to be youthful in the industry. I promise.
Yeah. So as far as the branding behind you, we had an interesting conversation before the podcast. So what is that behind you exactly? And how did you come across this?
So I have metal artwork on my wall, which depicts my car. I don't know if people can see it, if I've stepped aside, if you're watching the video. So I had a photograph of my car. I happen to love the Volvo XC90. I think that's one of the prettiest cars on the road. So I had a photo of my car taken, given to this company. They turn it into metal artwork. And then I added LED lights so I could illuminate headlights and brake lamps, etc., just to give it some life. And it's because I love cars. And my podcast is called The Customer Wins, which has a checkered flag. And I thought, to show off a car as part of the theme of winning, as part of who I am and my personal style and life and interests, this might be a good conversation piece. And apparently it is, because you're asking me about it.
It's very smart branding on your part. I appreciate that. So how have you, across the 23 years, decided on Quick's branding and where you stand, where you don't stand, developing a brand from scratch? What was that like for you?
My gosh, branding is one of the hardest things in the world, because think about your intention. Now, if you know ahead of time that you're making a promise, then how do you decide what promise to make? Right. I mean, that's one of the hardest parts, I think, in your business, because you start the business with an idea of like, oh, I'm going to solve this problem. So what's your promise then? Yeah. And what I found, just to kind of shortcut this answer, what I found is that by building my company culture, my culture defines the brand. Now, it's one thing if you're in a consumer product, like Coca-Cola or Nike shoes or something, your brand is giving people an emotional predisposition towards feeling towards your product or service. That's like Just Do It is so empowering. Mm-hmm. But when you're in business to business, it's harder to kind of encompass that. You don't have the same advertising mechanisms, for one. Mm-hmm. And two, you're talking to so many different people. It's not this mass appeal thing. It's targeted to what your product does in essence. So what I've learned over time is that my brand is a direct reflection of my company culture. And I actually started my company with the 4 tenets of my company culture in mind, because everything I wanted to do as an entrepreneur was to empower me as the leader and starter of the business to do my best work. And I asked myself, like, what does that mean then? What would empower me to want to get up in the morning and do my best work? And it came down to these 4 simple things, which are all equally important in my mind. One is to produce software so easy to use it doesn't require a user guide. Well, that's also to say anything you're designing should just be intuitive and simple. So it happens to be software in my case. 2, we must provide outstanding service at all times, at all levels. I don't know about you, but do you like working with people you don't like? Of course not.
Yep.
So I have to give really great service to my team members, my vendors, my partners, and my customers. And they do so in kind, which makes a really nice work environment. 3 is we love what we do. I want to do the work I enjoy and I feel best doing. Yeah, I don't get to do that 100%. There's some tasks I don't like, but that's true of life, right? Do you like doing dishes? Nobody likes doing dishes. Well, there's a few people. And then the 4th one is do what you say you're going to do. Like really live up to the accountability to that. Again, I'm going to use the word promise. I made a commitment to you to show up at this time, to be on this show, for example. I'm going to do that. Yeah. And that accountability builds trust. And when you build trust and you're delivering great products with great service and people enjoy working with you, there's no way to lose in my mind. And so one of the coolest things is over the past 15 years, we've had 3 different independent companies, consultants, go out and survey our customers for a variety of reasons and to learn how did they perceive us, what do they like or dislike about us, et cetera. And by and large, their answers are highly aligned with and reflect directly our company values, our company culture. And that's what led me to realize the brand is our culture. Do you feel like a lot of people would agree with that, or do you think that they see the same correlation, or have I stumbled on something? I just don't know.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up that sort of the culture came first. So I feel like depending on the entrepreneur, sometimes they feel like the branding comes first. Like I have to understand what it is that we're representing or whatnot. And then you sort of back into like, oh, well, yes, we'll do that with kindness and the platitudes that come with it. But I think that it's smart the way that you did it, because there are plenty of firms, like even I'm sure as you were thinking about the name Quick, that they'll pour so much time into like the name, and then after that, just sort of slap shot everything else and say like, well, it'll come together. It's fine. I appreciate the deliberate nature with which you did all this.
We actually launched without the Quick name. We went through 9 different names. Our company is actually called Efficient Technology Inc. Long name. And people will abbreviate it as ET. And we're not ET, we're ETI. So, and it doesn't represent, no. And it just doesn't represent the nature of our product, which is Quick. We went through 9 product names. And so we actually launched the product under a different product name first without branding. I'm just like, we just got to get to market and sell a product. And then we found Quick as the right name and loved it and said, yeah, that's it. So yeah, maybe I've done several things in reverse of most people in that case.
We've sort of outgrown where we are. So, or, whether, like you said, picking a name in particular, I feel like is incredibly difficult, because if you're going to try to pick something that lasts, the rest of your lifetime or whatnot, it feels almost impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. And thankfully, Quick does match our company cultural tenets, right? Easy to use, hopefully great service because it's fast, it's easy, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, so how have you built all the services to match all of that? Because like you said, so you've been fortunate enough that in your life or in your career, you've only signed 2 documents. I wish that I could say the same thing. How did you go about creating all the services to match then that branding that you created?
This is another place where I think I had the benefit of being a technologist first, because as a technologist, I'm actually a data person. And when I saw a form, I realized it's just a display mechanism for data. So, and it is, right? I mean, the purpose of a form is to ask you for information I don't have, so you can give it to me in a vehicle called paper or digital. And it's logical because it's organized around the information I need and the order I need it, et cetera. It is really a display mechanism at the end of the day, though. Mm-hmm. So when I thought about it from that standpoint, I was answering the question of how would I structure data? Most people look at forms from an opposite viewpoint. They look at it as, I have this form, I have to put data on it or get data off of it. So I'm going to make this field work. I looked at it and said, there's hundreds and thousands of forms that have the same field. So I got to make the data work, not the field. Mm-hmm. And I know it's kind of subtle, but as a technologist, that gave me kind of a platform to build it differently than everybody else was building it. Mm-hmm. And I remember, we had a multi-billion-dollar company want to buy us early on. And I said, no, wasn't ready. Then because we had done a partnership deal together already with a joint customer, they knew everything about how our product worked. They stopped returning our phone calls for 18 months. And after 18 months, they came back and said, look, we'll be honest. We tried to put you out of business. We tried to do what you do, and we can't. And I'm thinking, this isn't rocket science. And my partner's like, no, that's because you're the rocket scientist. This is the way you think, and nobody else is thinking this way. So somehow, again, I had this kind of viewpoint that nobody else shared. Mm-hmm. And we've been talking about it recently that, in 23 years, there's a reason we're still here. Yep. And one of the core reasons is because we have defended our model successfully over and over and over again against our customers who want to change it, our partners who demand that we change it, and even the form providers. Can you imagine saying no to a big company like Pershing? I had to, because it's my model, not theirs. Mm-hmm. And being able to defend our architecture, the way we designed it, is so critical to our success because, again, we do it differently, but we do it in such a way it is more efficient, more effective. And what we're fighting is just other people's laziness in a way. They don't want to change. They want us to do it for them. And we say no. So
good for you. Every business owner wants to get to that place where you're just like, heck no. I can tell you every reason why not. No.
It's so hard. It's honestly one of the hardest parts of a business is to say no. Yep. And we've had to do it a long time. So we're comfortable with it at this point. But still, it's surprising when people ask, like, can you change this? We have 1.2 million fields defined. Am I going to go change them? No. Right. Our customers depend on those definitions. Sorry.
Good for you. reflecting on the business, obviously it's 23 years old now. You're hitting 25 pretty darn soon. Do you feel like it's accomplished from a branding standpoint everything that you wanted? And where do you feel like the next 25 years are going?
You know, the secret is I've always wanted to build a multi-generational company. So I want this to last for a really long time. And the other side of it is I don't plan in short-term increments. I plan in long-term increments. I look at 3, 5, and 8 and 10 years down the road. So we're looking at technologies to keep evolving, but we're also expanding beyond our marketplace. So thankfully, we have become the dominant player for forms and forms processing in the wealth management space. Something like 70 to 80% of the companies out there are using us. And they may be using our partners, it may be white label, they may not even realize it, but we're there. It's really awesome to be in that position, though it didn't come with champagne and Ferraris like you thought it might. It was more just like, wait a minute, we can't grow as fast as we want to in this industry anymore because there's not that much growth left for us because we've done a good job. So we are going horizontal across multiple segments of financial services like banking and lending and commercial and institutional. And we're looking for areas where there's still the same problem because, I mean, come on, everybody's still doing forms. Yes. And I want to eliminate that, honestly. I know how to get rid of forms. In fact, our next evolution is going to get rid of the concept of forms in so many ways. People won't experience the problem of forms. You know what I can eliminate, Allie?
What?
The need for your data.
Oh.
Right? Sure. If you're opening an account, you've got to share your data. How else can I get it? We have not learned mind melding. I can't read your mind. Yeah. So there's still a need for how do I capture the data? And that's what we're doing is we're evolving to different methodologies of how to capture the data because we have this very robust model. So yeah, I see tremendous growth opportunities for us. I see going into more industries is just solving more problems. I love partnerships with ecosystems like DocuSign. We have an app in their marketplace, which introduces us to other customers. We got into the Amazon Web Service marketplace recently, so people can find us there. That kind of exposure helps us grow. But generally speaking, I'm looking at this problem of not only how do I help you move your data from your brain to some system, but also how do I secure it? How do I ensure it is your secure data? So we're going to be looking ahead at things like identity, or how do we mask and hide data from the people along the way and just share it with the system on the back end? And to me, that's all data driven.
I'm looking forward to what you come up with because obviously, as you know, it seems like the cyber criminals are just always like 2 steps ahead of us. And so knowing that you're working to secure things and so that we can just say to heck with forms is fabulous.
Yeah, we've already built a system that I refer to as Vault. It's a hyper secure storage mechanism for form data. And the nitty gritty is your data, like your first name, that data point has its own unique encryption, different from your last name, different from your middle name, different from your social security number. And it's tokenized, which means that even if you got to it, you wouldn't be able to decrypt it. It's so complicated. Even if I have the perfect admin rights of my system, I cannot see your data in my system. It's that obscured and difficult to get to. So that means if somebody had the ability to actually break our security and get your first name, number one, they wouldn't know what it means. And 2, they wouldn't know how to put it together with other data points. And 3, every other data point would be uniquely encrypted. They'd start over.So good luck. No, I'm not inviting hackers. Hold on a second.
Right. No, he did. Right. It was an expression of speech. It had nothing to do with starting a race. Yeah.
No.
Oh my goodness. So the branding that is behind your podcast. So how did you decide from a branding standpoint that you want to do a podcast? And then how did you create the premise around it?
I was trying to answer a question for myself, which is how can I be seen as a thought leader in my space and be invited to speak? I wanted to go to conferences and be a keynote speaker. I still do. I love keynote speaking. I love public speaking. And
very good at it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So what do I do? Do I get a PhD in the topic? I don't. Well, first of all, nobody wants to hear about forms. So I'm not going to get on stage and talk about that. So what is it I'm going to talk about? And I'm passionate about customer success. We're really good at doing it in our company. So let me promote that. But I didn't want to go get a master's or a PhD in the topic or certified in the topic. So I thought, well, wait a minute. If I talk to a lot of people who know something about it, I can learn from everybody and share their stories. And so it's been amazing. I've done over 125 interviews at this point.
Nice.
And I've been seeing patterns around the customer success, customer journey, customer experience models. And it's led me to come up with, so far, what I think are the top 3 ingredients to creating the best customer success for your customers. And what's also interesting is my topic on my podcast allows me to talk to anybody who has this kind of capability or expertise. So about 20% of my audience have absolutely nothing to do with the other 80% of my audience, meaning my guests, I should say, not audience. Yeah. So I had a magician on. Oh. I had a custom suit maker, a golf pro. I had the CEO of Alamo Drafthouse Movie Theaters. I wanted to get totally different perspectives on this, and it's been amazing. I've learned so much from this. Maybe a book will come out of it at some point in the future too.
Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, it led me to do that. And then I have just really, really enjoyed having weekly conversations with new people, learning about them. I try to approach it with an insane curiosity to really absorb as much as I can and then see where it goes.
That's great. So just as a last question, and you've shared so much with us, so thank you for your generosity in doing that. But if you had any advice for people who feel like either their personal or their business brand is not where they want it to be, and they want to get it somewhere else, what should they be doing?
I think everything starts within. I think it starts with you. Like, what is it you want? I've met so many business owners who are unhappy in their business because they're not getting what they want from their own company. Huh. And so that's why I started with company culture. Company culture is what empowers you to feel your best, do your best, want to be there. And so that's why I start with that. If you can look inside and say, honestly, are you getting what you want? And I don't necessarily mean financial reward. I mean the commitment from your team, the engagement from people, et cetera. If you're not, that's the first thing. That's the foundation of your house, right? That's the first thing you should do. I'll give you an analogy. If you are a kind of person, and I don't mean to be crass, but if you're the kind of person who swears a lot, uses curse words, and you want to stop doing that, do you know where you have to stop doing it first? At home. Yeah. If you're doing it at home, you're going to do it out in the field. If you do it out in the field, you're still going to do it at home. So start in your own house and fix that problem there before you try to fix it out to the outside world, because people sense it. They perceive who you are from the inside before you realize it. Yep. So that's my number one thing. Start with you.
Oh, very wise. Well, thank you so much, and continued success to you. So if anybody wants to learn more about Quick, or feels after this that they need this, how can they come find you?
So quickforms.com, easy way to find our website. I am on LinkedIn as Quick Forms CEO. And all I ask is you write me a personal message for why we should meet. I get too many people selling me stuff. So reach out and say, hey, I saw you on the podcast. I wanted to say hi. I'd love to meet you. Anything like that that's personal, I will so answer you.
And absolutely. And if I could add to that, if you could say which podcast he was on, that would just help with his own marketing strategies.
Look, Allie's not doing this just because she loves it. Well, she does love it. Go give her a like, subscribe to her channel, help other people see the value she's bringing to the table. That's how we all thrive.
Thank you. Thanks so much for doing this, Rich.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.